Hello, my name is John Lawrence, and today I'm going to teach you basic chords, a gauge system, seventh chords, bar chords, how to use a capo. Before we do that, let me explain a little bit about the fret map if you don't already know. Okay, the numbers on the sides going up in the black here, those are fret numbers. Up here on the 11th fret, see right there, those are the string numbers. Each of the colored notes have a letter and a number. For example, C's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So basically what that is, that's a C scale, C major scale. So, alright, now I'm going to give you a little bit of theory to help you better understand how chords are formed, and then I'm going to go and show you all the chords that you're going to need to begin with. Okay, so now chords, I'm going to start with the major chord. A major chord is made up of 3 notes and only has 3 notes in the whole chord. Now the notes can be repeated, but they can only be those 3 notes. Well, we'll do C major for example here. Now the 3 notes are the C, the E, and the G. Or what you better think of it as is the 1, the 3, and the 5. Okay? All major chords have just those 3 notes in it. So now if I want to make a major C major chord, I'm going to need the 1s and the 3s and the 5s. So where do I find those 1s and 3s and 5s? Well, there's places on the fretboard that it's comfortable for the hand to make those chords. So let's go starting with the C major. Okay, a C major. Now you're going to take the ring finger, you're going to curve it and just push down with a tip on the blue C note. Right there like that. It's on the 3rd fret, 5th string. Okay, now the next note you're going to play is the E note, which is the 3rd. So you take your big finger, middle finger, press it down on the brown note. Okay, you need to press down hard and just with the tips and don't touch any of the adjacent strings, and that goes for all the chords. Well, except for when I'm going to give you some exceptions on bar chords and certain things. Okay, now this next string here, you're going to skip. And then you're going to put your finger down, just the tip, on the other blue C note. Now, when you strum the chord, you can strum all 6 strings, just 5 strings, 4 strings, or just 3 strings. You can strum up or down depending on what sound you want to get out of it. Now, important thing is to remember, you always have to play those 3 notes, the 1, the 3, and the 5. Like I say, you can add more notes, but you can't take any away. I mean, you can add more 1s, 3s, and 5s, but you can't take any away. You have to have one of each of those in to form a major chord. So now you can see you can find your major chords pretty easily if you know where the 1s, the 3s, and the 5s are. So you just follow this shape. You can move that up, you move it up. So those are going to be the 1s, the 3rd, and the 5th for the C sharp, which there's no note here. It's in the white notes, but that's for example how to find your chords in any key. Now we've done the C chord. I'm going to go and show you the G chord. Okay, now G chord starts with, oh, I forgot to tell you, this note here on this string, the 5th string, 3rd fret for the C chord, that is your root note. Okay, so now your root note for G is going to be G. Then you're going to have a 3rd and a 5th, but don't pay attention to the numbers when you're moving off of C. So you're going to need the purple note, the yellow note, and the black note. So now I need to find the purple note and the yellow and the black note. So okay, there's the first purple note. There's an easy yellow note. I can easily form that. Okay, now you see up here we got a black note and another purple note on the open strings. So I'm going to use those 2. And up here I got a black note and another purple note over here. So, big finger, middle finger on the G, the purple note, index finger on the yellow. I'm going to play the next two strings without pressing down on them, or we call it open. Okay, now up here we're going to use the ring finger, press that down on the black note, the D note, and the little finger goes up on the other purple note. Now you can play all 6 strings with that. Alright, so that's a G major. Okay, now I'm going to go with an F major. So I need to find the F. That's the red note. Okay, so that's going to be my root note, right? Okay, so the 1, the 3, and the 5 for the F, or I need a red note, a green note, and a blue note. So how can I do that and form my hand comfortably? Like this. Same way, press just down on the tip on the red note, just on the tip on the green note, just on the tip on the blue note. Okay, now there's my F major. I can also bend this down and get that other F in there. It's another F major. But until your hands get a little stronger, that's fine. But if you put another F in there, it kind of makes it sound more like an F. I mean, it always sounds like an F, but it just gives that extra little bit of oomph. Okay, so I've done the C, the G, the F. Now we're going to go to the E. Now the E major in the first position down here, you want to play the E. See the little square? That's an E, so that means the open string's an E. You're going to play the B. You're going to play the other E. And you're going to play a note that isn't with a dot. It's a white note between the green and the purple. So that's going to be a G sharp. So to form that chord, remember, skip the 6th string, middle finger on the yellow note, ring finger on the brown note, and index finger on the white space between the black, or between the purple and the green on the 3rd string. So there's the E shape. And just play all 6 strings. So now that is the E major. Okay, now let's go to the D major and down here in the first position. So D major, we need the 1st, 3rd, and the 5th. So here's a black D note up here, but this is going to be the D note. As you can see, there's an open string down here that's a D, a black note. And for the other 2 notes you need the A, and you're going to need this white note in here between the purple and the red. So that's a D. So to form that, index finger, press down on the D, on the A, the green note. Your ring finger, press down on the D, the black note, and the middle finger, you press down on this white space in between the purple and the red note. And you're going to want to play from the open note here, the open D, all the way down. Gives it a nice strong D sound. So just those bottom 4 strings. Okay. So now let's move on to the A note, A major. Okay, you see up here on this open note, open string, you have an A, green note. Okay, you're going to play the green note, the brown note, another green note, and another white note in between the black and the blue. So there's a couple ways to do this. I like to do it like this, with this finger covering the brown note and the green note, and then this finger, the middle finger, coming in and pressing down on the white note. So to do that, you want to play the middle strings. I mean, you can play them all, like I said before, but you need to play at least 3 strings. That sounds best to me, playing the 4 middle strings. But depending on what I'm doing, if I'm accompanying someone, I might not want to play the exact same chords that they're playing. I mean, I'll play the same chords, for example. They might be playing A like this. I come up here and play an A like this. I'm going to get to that. Hang on, we're going. Okay, so the root note here on the A is on the 5th string right there, the A. Okay, now we're going to need to move up, come off first position a little bit, and I'm going to show you the B note, or the B chord, B major chord. Now this is going to move into bar chords. So, you know what, I'm going to save that. I'm going to do the minor chords now. Okay, now, you see on a major chord, we explain a little bit about the theory about a minor chord so you can understand what's going on and so you can make them, find them anywhere you want. Okay, so the major chord was the 1, the 3, and the 5. Okay, now a minor chord is similar. It has the 1, the 3, and the 5, but the 3rd is down a half step. For example, C minor scale, that's the C minor. So the 3rd is what changes the tone when you're forming a minor chord versus a major chord. So the best way to do that, show you that, is C major is the same, uses the same notes as A minor. So you can see the 3rd note here is right next, it's only a half step off between the 2nd and the 3rd note. Whereas if you're doing the C, which I'm going to go up here to the C, the 1st note, 2nd note, and 3rd note there, you see that's a whole step off. That is the difference between a major and a minor sounding chord. Okay, is the 3rd. So that's something very important to remember. Okay, so let's just go into the, show you the minor chords. Now it's difficult to make a C minor in first position, so we're not going to do that. I'm going to show you, we're going to start with an A minor. E minor, I should say. So we're going to go to the E. Well, back up here. E, brown note, yellow note there, brown note here, and this one's going to be open because we're flatting the A. But so to make that open note, middle finger on the B, yellow note, ring finger on the E, the other brown note, and then you're going to need to play this G back here too. So you're going to play the top 4 strings, and that's your E minor. Okay, now let's do a D minor. Those are easy to do in first position as well. So you're going to have your D here, your A, your other D, and then you're going to flat the 3rd. So that's your D minor. Now to make that, you're going to play this open, middle finger right there, just a tip pushing down on the A, ring finger on the D, pushing down on the D, and you're going to have your index finger on the F down here, and you play the bottom 4 strings. See, it has a minor sound. For example, there's a major, D minor, D major, D minor. So they have a distinctively different sound. You could say that the minor sounds more sad and the major sounds more happy. Okay, now I'm going to show you the A minor. So it's just like the A major, except with that 1 string flatted or moved down a fret. Okay, so basically the same thing. A, this middle finger on the E, ring finger on the A, and your index finger is now going to go on the C. Remember the A was up here. Now, so that's an A minor. Sounds sadder. Okay, you can also make an A major like this with one finger, but I find it makes it hard for me to let the high E ring if I want to use that, so I make them like that. I mean, you can, but you really got to press down a bit. But that's for the major chord. So A minor. That's A minor. There you go. Okay, now the other chords aren't real easy to make in the first position in a minor. So guess what? We're going to jump in and I'm going to show you how to make the bar chords. Now bar chords are great because you can move them anywhere you want on the fretboard. to get any of the chord tones. All right. So we're going to start with the C major. Okay. Now this is going to have a 5th string root. So the 5th string, you look down there, find 5th string, and it starts on the 3rd fret, the blue C dot. So now what you got is you're going to use the index finger to bar all of the notes. You can say you just bar that, but if you bar them all, it'll keep this from vibrating. And besides, you need to get in the habit of making a bar chord like this. So index finger across all 6 strings, pressing down. Now, so remember the 1, the 3, and the 5 are what I use to make a major chord. So there's the 1, there's the 5, there's the 1, and there's another 3. So that is a C major chord, C major bar chord. Okay, so basically this finger across all 6 strings, or just the bottom 5 if you want. But you kind of, sometimes you want to have the tip of that finger touching the 6th string so it doesn't vibrate. I mean, in this particular chord it's alright because it's a G, but when you move up here you don't want that string vibrating, but I'm going to show you that in a second. Okay, and so down here you're going to use the ring finger to press down on these 3 strings, the G, the C, and the E, and you want to try to leave this high string, the bottom string, let it ring. So don't press down on it. So you really got to bend that this finger to just press down on it and bend. So that's a C major. Okay, now the great thing about bar chords is you can move them. They're movable. So I can take this exact same shape. See, that's a C major. Now if I move it up to this black dot and keep the exact same shape, that's a D major. Move it up to the E, E major, F major, G major. Wherever I move it. If I move it in there, that's a C sharp major because it's one above the C in a white note, one below the D, or it could be a D flat if I'm going up or coming down, or there's a couple rules for that, but nothing you need to know right now. Okay, so that is a major bar chord with the root note based on the 5th string. Gotta know these. You gotta know all these chords I'm showing. This is just the basic stuff. Now, I'm going to show you how to make the minor bar chord with the root note on the 5th string. To do that, what you need to do, that's the shape right there. Okay, you play the same, the C, the 5, and the 1. Now you're going to flat the 3. There's a 3. Remember the E3? But since it's minor, that's going to be flatted. So that's going to be your sound for a C minor bar chord. So to make that, index finger barring all 5 of the strings, maybe even touching the 6th string, or you can press it down. I like to touch it just to keep it from vibrating. And then you're going to have the ring finger on the G, the little finger on the C, and the middle finger here on this white note right below the E. So it's going to be a flatted 3rd, which makes that a minor chord. It's another movable chord too. You can take that anywhere you want. There's a D minor, E minor. I can move that down to 1st position. You can see how that goes, and just use the nut here as the finger bar. But you don't need to put your finger down because the nut's right there. So that's an E minor, or sorry, A minor, A major. So that is the 5th string minor and major bar chords. Now I'm going to show you on the 6th string you can do the same thing pretty much with a couple of changes. But so we're going to start here. I'm going to go up here again, make it easy to explain. Okay, this is going to be a 6th string bar chord. There's the C note, right? So we need the 1, the 3, and the 5. So the C, the E, and the G, or the 1, 3, 5. So there's my 1, there's my root note on the 6th string. Root note's the 1st note. Okay, then I'm going to go to the 5. They don't need to be in any particular order. I don't know if I mentioned that before. They can be 1 5 3, 1 3 5, 5 3 1, however. But this needs to be those 3 notes in any order, really. So you got the C, the 1, the 5, got another 1, and here you got a 3. So 1 3 5. So that's the shape for the 6th string bar chord, 6th string major bar chord, I should say. Now it's almost the same, well, it's exactly the same shape as used down here. You're just putting it on, you're just starting your root note on the 6th string, moving everything up 1. Okay? And you should get in the habit of making your bar chords like this, the way I showed you with this particular fingering, because it helps to not like this, but like this, because it helps when you're moving fast. It makes your bar chord a lot stronger. When you move, it doesn't want to move your fingers, pull your fingers away as easily. So there we go. Major, C major bar chord, 5th note. Now this is also movable. A major, B major. Move it down into the 1st position right there. C, that's an E major. F major, G major, A major, back to C major. Okay, now I'm going to show you the minor bar chord on the 6th string with the 6th string root note. So remember, that we need to flat the 3rd now. So we got the 1. We don't have a 3 anymore, we have a flatted 3rd, so that's going to be this white note just below the E. So it's going to be the same shape starting, but to make it minor, we're going to flat the 3rd, which is lifting off the middle finger. So that is a minor bar chord shape. In this case, I'm playing in C minor, A minor, B minor, G minor. Remember, just find the root note there on the 6th string, and that's going to be the tone of the chord, A minor. Okay, so that's the 5th and the 6th string bar chords. There's a couple more I'm going to get into when I jump into the 7ths, which are basically what you need to know is those bar chords are very useful to move around. It takes a while to get your hands strong enough to play them. But I'm going to show you a workaround for that as well. Just hang on, we're going to get to it. Okay, now I'm going to go in and I'm going to show you 7th chords. Now these 7th chords are very useful. They use them a lot. It's one of your basic chords you need to have. So major, minor, and the 7ths are what I'm teaching. I will have another video once you've mastered these, going on to some more advanced chords. But 90% of the songs you're ever going to play, except for maybe blues, they have some 9th chords in there and some stuff, but it's going to be with these chords that I'm showing you right now. Alright, so where am I? Okay, I'm doing the 7ths. Okay, now that's a little bit of theory on what makes a 7th chord. And surprise, surprise, it has to do with the 7th note in the scale. That's this B right here, the yellow note. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there's the 7th note, the yellow note. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to make a C major chord. C major 7th chord, I should say. Well, let's do the theory first. Okay, now the 7th is movable, just like the 3rd was. Remember, a 3rd was the 3rd changed the tone between a minor and a major chord. If you move it down, same thing with the 7th. It doesn't make it a minor 7th, but it makes it a 7th or a major 7th or a dominant 7th, which I'm going to show you. So where this yellow note is now, that when you play that note, you're going to be using it with a major 7th chord. Now if you drop that down, you're going to play a dominant 7th chord. So let's go, and I'll show you how to make a C. Oh, also another thing, the seventh chords are four note chords, whereas the major chords are 3-note chords. So every seventh chord is going to have 4 different notes in it, which are, if it's a major seventh, the first, the third, the fifth, and the seventh. Okay, so those are going to be the 4 notes in every seventh chord. Now the seventh note might change depending on if you're playing a dominant seventh or a major seventh, but I'm going to go and explain that to you. So, C major 7. Play the C, the G, the B, and there's a third. So we have a 1, a 5, a 7, and a 3. So you got 4 different notes in there. And just like the major chord, you can add more of those 4 notes, more of one of those 4 notes, but you can't add any other notes to keep it a major seventh chord. So to do this chord, I'm going to show you in the bar chord position here. You got a C, a G. Okay, you bar like you did with the bar chords I just showed you on the 5th string, maybe touching the 6th string, if you have a problem with that ringing, vibrating. So, got that, and you're going to put your ring finger on the G, the purple note, the middle finger on the yellow note, and that's your 7th. That's what gives the chord the flavor. And then your small finger, your pinky on the E, the other. And you basically just got to play the middle 4 notes. Or you can add the extra G's in there if you want, but the extra 5s, see the. So, C major 7. Alright, now I'm going to show you C7. Also could be known as a C dominant 7. But basically what you do is you're going to lower this 7th note down and play this white note in here. Or a flatted 7, however you want to do the terminology. But basically all you do is you lift up, you keep the same bar chord position, but you're just going to lift up this finger. Alright? So that's a C7, C dominant 7, C major 7. You hear the difference in sound? Now those are also movable bar chords. So D7. Now if I want to play a D major 7, I should say, and if I want to play a D7, just lift up the middle finger. So that is the 7th bar chords for C, for the major 7th bar chords, and the G7 bar chord, which is also a major chord. It's just a dominant 7 instead of a major 7. Okay, now I'm going to show you the minor chord, the C7th minor. So now what do we need to do to make a chord minor or major? That's right, we lower the 3rd. So, and you also don't want to put a major 7th in a minor chord. You want to put the dominant 7th. So this is going to be the shape for a minor 7th, C minor 7th. So bar those 5 strings with the C, that the root note's always right there underneath your 5th string when you're doing 5th string bar chords. Okay, then you're going to have a G, the 5th. Then you're going to have the flatted 7, make it a dominant 7, and then you're going to have the flatted 3rd to change the chord from a major to a minor. So that is your C7 minor. Okay, now you want to hear the difference between the 3. Here's the major 7th, 7th or dominant 7th, and now the minor 7th. Okay, so and those are all movable. You can move that. It's a D minor 7th, E minor 7th, F major 7th, G dominant 7th. Okay, now we're going to go on the, show you the 7th bar chords on the 6th string with a 6th string root. Okay, once again I'm going to move up here. I'm going to do it off the C so we can use the numbers to get the theory down. But basically you have those 4 notes again, the 1, 3, 5, and the 7. So now how am I going to do that? This chord is a little tricky, but this chord shape I should say. Okay, you got your index finger on the C. There's the chord, by the way. Index finger on the C. Now I'm going to want to touch this 5th string real lightly with my, I touch it with the index finger so it doesn't vibrate. And then I'm going to get the 7 here with my ring finger. I'm going to get the 3 here with my pinky. And I'm going to get the 5 here with my middle finger. So that's what it sounds like. C major 7th on the 6th string root note bar chord. Well, it's not a bar chord, but it's a movable chord as well. Most chords are movable, by the way. You just got to know where the roots are. So, for example, this is a 6th string root, so I can move this down and move it down. I know it's going to be a B major 7th. Move it down to G, G major 7th, G flat major 7th. It all depends on knowing if you're using a 6th string root note bar chord or a 5th string root note bar chord, and what those root notes are, which are easily marked on this guitar. So, you see C major 7th. Okay, it's the same note. Okay, so those are basically the 7th chords in the bar chord position. And what else am I going to do here? Alright, now let's go on. I'm going to show you how to do something really unique here. Well, not unique, but it's great. It's called a caged system. Now, remember how I showed you in the first position the notes are the chords? That's a C, A, G, E, and the D. Okay, basically what this is if you're using those notes, are using those chords, they're all going to have a root note somewhere. Okay, for example, C, the root note is here on the 5th string. Now I'm going to show you where those root notes are right now. Okay, that's the C chord shape I just showed you, and the root note is on the 5th string. So now wherever I make that root note, remember I told you about root notes with the bar chords? These are root notes with the in the cage system. That's also can be a bar chord. You just basically got to think of this nut as a bar. Now these are really tough to make once you get away from the first position, but I'm going to show you if I move this C note up to the D here and I do a bar chord like that, that is the caged system in action. So now it's a movable bar chord. Not an easy thing to make, but I'm going to show you a workaround in a second here, how to use a capo to transpose your songs or whatever you're doing. So basically right now I'm going to go through and I'm going to tell you where the root notes are and how you find how you're going to be able to find out what chord you're playing when you're playing up on the neck. So it's a C, that's a 5th string root note. If you use this shape, it's up here, that's going to be a D, it's going to be an E. See what I'm doing? F sharp G, because there's my root note underneath my pinky now. Okay, so that's for the C. Now the A, see your root note up here is going to be the A on the 5th string. But that's basically just the same thing we just went over. That's a movable bar chord. Remember the C major? Basically the same thing. Okay, so your root note is going to be the 5th string. It's a 5th string root note as well. Alright, now we're going to go to the C, A, G. G is a little tougher to move up and down the neck with the bar chord, but we're going to show you that with the capo. But basically, the G note, the note underneath your middle finger, that's going to be your root note. Also, under your pinky finger over here, as you see, the G is the same note and the same fret, but just the 6th string and the 1st string have the same note. Okay, now the E. This is going to be a familiar shape as well. You got the E. That is your root note. So that is the note you're going to use when you transpose, when you go up and down the neck. But basically it should look familiar because it's nothing more than the bar chords I already showed you. Remember the C major bar chord in this position on the 6th string? That's an F, that's an E. But basically just, if you're doing the E, you can just use this finger, pretend it's the nut. F, G. So wherever you move the 6th string root on that, that's going to be your tone, your chord. And final one is the D. I'm getting a little bit, talking a lot here. So basically, I know it's going real fast, but this is a video. You now own it, so you can go back and review this. Trust me, you need to know every single thing I am teaching you here. This is the basics. But this is what you're trying to get to. Learning all these chords, but it's going to take a while to get your hands used to getting the muscle memory so you can quickly jump to chords. So let's go to the D. Okay, D, as you can see, there's a couple ways to do it. Here's a D root note underneath my ring finger. Remember, that's the D. You also have a root note up here with the black square. That's the open note. So the D. So now, if you want to move this up and down the neck, the note I like to pay attention to is underneath my ring finger. So it says it's a D, so I'm moving up here. You see that brown note? That's an E. Keep the same shape. E, F, G, G sharp, A, D. Same thing works with the minor. I showed you D minor, E minor, F minor, G minor, G minor, G minor. So you can basically start to see some relationships between the chords there. Okay, now, as I promised you, I'm going to show you how to use a capo. So let's just go anywhere. I'll just go to the A. Now, when I put on a capo, let me get in here. What I like to do is I like to put it as close to the fret, just on the left side of the guitar if you're a right-handed guitar player, but on the side of where the headstock is, I like to just put it right on the number there. See the number 5? I like to put it right on that number as close to the fret as possible. I find this helps keep the strings from getting bent so much if you put it in the middle, and it keeps the guitar in tune when you put keeps it more in tune when you put a capo on. When you put a capo on this, it's always a little bit out. But if you do it that way, it seems to keep the strings staying in tune the best. Alright, so now, basically, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you how to transpose the songs. Okay, now, for example, I'm not going to take the capo off, but if say I was, well, I'll take it off. So say I was playing C, G, and D. In the first position, but now I have a singer that can't sing that low or wants to sing it in a different key. So what I can do is take this capo. Remember, I was doing the C, the G, and the D, so it's a 1-5-2 progression. See how that works? 1, 5, 2, G, C, D. So I'm going to take this, put it back up here on the 5th fret. So now what I want to do is a G, C, D, the same shapes that I use down here, G, C, and D, but I move them up here. See how it changes the tone, but the intervals are still the same. It's still well, the numbers aren't going to be right, but it's going to be that note, and the D, the same things you had it down here. So that's basically how you can use the capo to transpose. As you can see, like I said, while it's difficult to make the G shape with the bar chord, a movable bar chord, but when you have a capo, that's no longer a G. But now what did I tell you? The root note's going to be underneath, it's going to be on the 6th string, which in this case happens to be underneath my middle finger. So instead of playing a G with that shape, I'm now playing a C with that shape. Same over here, the C shape that I used down here, because the ring finger was on the C, but now it's on an F, which is now the root note, so that's an F. And over here, I'm playing, the root note was this on the 2nd string underneath the ring finger, so that's now, as you see, a G. So C, F, G. So that is the same number progression as you would in. How should I explain that? Okay, that's the same number progression that you had down here, but it's just in a different key. So remember, I had this. What was I doing? The G, C, D. So it was a 5, 1, 2. Okay, so that 5, 1, 2. That's in the key in the 1st position. Now, so I move it up here. It's still going to be the 5th, the 1, and the 2, but in a different key, if that makes any sense to you. But you can move the capo anywhere you want, and it just changed the sound. So I'm going to do the same shapes, the G. And when you're doing this, you can practice singing along and see if that works better for you. There might be some low notes down here you can't hit. Well, you can just try singing along with it, and when you transpose your songs, see where it's most comfortable for you. And that's the good thing about the capos and things like that. All right. So let's see. Maybe I should give you a little bit more on chord progressions here. I'll start show you a little about chord progressions and get you started on that. If you need to say more, I have a lesson on chord progressions, all kinds of stuff. But basically, a chord progression is you just take. Okay, we're going to do it in C. We're going to do this chord progression in C. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So those are the numbers for each note. That's the 1st note, 2nd note, 3rd note, 4th note, 5th note, 6th note, 7th note. Then it goes back to 1. So that's going to be the 8th note, basically. So now if you want to do a progression, basically you can take the numbers. This is part of the Nashville number system. I'm not going to get too much into it here, but so basically you can just take the numbers and transpose like I just showed you with the capo. So I'm going to just pick a progression. Now this is going to be in a key of C major. So I'm going to say, I don't know. Well, let's do the typical typical blues progression. There's a 1, a 4, and a 5. Okay, so you can see there's the 1, the 4, and the 5 right there. Well, you can do more than that. That's not the only place you can do a 1, 4, 5. You can do a 1, 4, 5 here. 1, 4, 5 right there. Or you can do a 1, a 4, and a 5 up here. So, few places you can do a 1, 5, 1, 5, 4 progression. Basically, when I say 1, 5, 4, it means you go from the 1 to the 5 to the 4. But you can also switch it around a little bit. But that's the basics of the progression. But stay within the 1, 4, 5. For example, I'll go through a typical blues progression. And all I'm doing here is I'm adding the A or the 6th note up here. Okay, so that's the 1. Then I'll switch to the 4, but I'm going to just go through it once and you can see what I'm doing here. Now see how I go back to the 1? I don't have to go up to the 5 yet, but it's still a 1-4-5 progression because I'm going to get there. So okay, now I can go down here. So we can mix that up a little bit, and I'm going to show you some other stuff here. So basically a 1-4-5 progression has 1, 4, 5 in it. You can move it around however you want, as long as you stay within those three, the 1, the 4, and the 5. You can also add some other stuff in there. 1, 4, 5 can basically be the song, but you can also add a third in there, whatever you want to, just to give it your own little flavor. So basically, if someone tells you 2, 5, 1 progression in the key of C major, okay, the 2 is the D, the 5 is the G, and the 1 is the C. Now this is used in jazz a lot, so here we go. This is the major 7th that I showed, or well, I'm doing a minor 7th because it's key of C major. D minor 7th, G 7th, C major 7th. Or a 2, 5, 1. So basically you can mess with those progressions. If you're interested in progressions, there's a lot of them, a lot of real common ones. Have another video on that where I show you explain the whole Nashville number system, and it's another video that's full of information, but you have to learn this first to really get much out of the next ones. So basically, what I recommend, go back, learn your chords in the first position. Now if your fingers aren't up to it, this stretch here, you can always use the capo. Move it up here, and then the stretch isn't so big. So you don't have to make that big stretch, you can just make a comfortable stretch. Or if that's not comfortable, move it up even higher. Till you get your fingering down. So basically that's your chord lesson for the basic chords. So I have an advanced chord lessons too you can check out. But so basically I've given you a lot of information here real quick. This should take you about a year to learn, I would assume, depending on what level you're at. But you got to start somewhere. This is a good place. Also I have a lesson on scales, which I just showed you. Basically it's a major scale, a minor scale, same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 uses the same notes because A uses the same notes as C. A minor uses the same notes as C major. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then back to the 1 or the 8, which is the A, the root note. And I'll get into a little bit about that starting on, well, with the chords, advanced chords like 9ths and 11ths and 13ths, like this is 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. But that's another lesson, so those are the notes you're going to add when you want to make one of those chords. So that's about it. Take it slow, learn these chords, make sure that the chord rings nice and clearly. That means you're not touching any of the strings except for the ones that you're supposed to be touching. So you want to have a nice, clear, bright tone. And also make sure you use a tuner. Don't try the old method to tune your guitar. Always use a tuner. I mean, until you get your ear, and even professionals, every time they play, they use a tuner. They're not tuning up like this. They're not doing it. But until you get your ear used to hearing exactly how notes are in 440 or whatever tone is in 440, they're all in 440, but whatever, the A, D, G, use a tuner. It's easy. Takes a couple minutes to tune your guitar, and then you're fine. Now, if you end up playing chords and they don't sound right, play the notes one at a time until you find the sour. I'm gonna take that down so we have a sour note in there. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so that doesn't sound like the C I was playing, right? Playing one at a time slowly. Okay, well, this note, this string sounds off. Doesn't sound like an E. So you can go and tune that up. Use a tuner. I'm gonna. It's sounds better. But use a tuner. So you have an idea of what the chords, what the tones are. So basically, that's about it for today. So go study this. If you have any questions, please ask me, or if you have any suggestions, or you feel I didn't cover anything thoroughly enough, let me know, and I will definitely get back to you. All right. Thanks very much, and we'll see you next time.